Kyle Barefield from All Things Hunting, and you're looking at a big old mule deer we just killed in Colorado. And this is one that I'm gonna mount, but we're gonna give you a little real quick how-to on how to field dress a deer out in the field to make him a little lighter to put him in the truck, but also save the cake for a mount. So I'll show you. Just learned from Matt that in Colorado, if the deer's whole, you gotta keep proof of sex on your carcass. Horns are proof of sex, so we can take his nuts off. If we were going to quarter the deer, you'd have to leave his nuts attached. So that's normally where I start on a whitetail or anything, is right here, because that gives you a good cutting point to begin. But remove that. I'll save those for Cole. And where you made your incision and started, cutting his testicles off, you can feel the muscle and everything where it ties in together with his hip. Make you a small cut right there so you can get in through. You don't want to cut too deep or you'll bust his intestines. But once you start going, you want to run down the center line. And if you're saving his cape for taxidermy, you want to stop when you hit his brisket. Don't bust his brisket. And so it makes it harder to field dress one, because then once you get to there, you got to reach your hands and your knife up underneath to cut everything free. But the best way to cut one without busting any intestines is you don't want to do that. Could spoil the meat. It smells pretty bad, but we've all done it. Take 2 fingers, put them underneath the hide. You're going to support the tip of that blade with the 2 fingers. So you're going to keep the intestines pushed off of the tip of the blade. So just don't cut yourself. But when you get it going, you usually want a sharp knife to do this. I haven't quite going yet. I'm going to get his hair out of the way first. So I'm going to cut the same incision that I'm going to cut on the muscle, but I'm just going to get his hair gone to make it easier. But I'm not poking through that muscle to get into the intestines. But you got to be careful, like I said. You want to stop cutting that hair when you meet his brisket. End of his rib cage. Right there. So you already got a little intestine poking out. Get back under it. Right there on that muscle. Put that knife in between your 2 fingers. Kind of push it along. Just like that. Fat deer right here. Boy. Right there. We're almost to the brisket. That's where we stopped. All right, now if you can feel this, I'll show you. That right here is called the caul fat. Wraps his stomach and his intestines. Some people save that and wrap the heart in it, or some of the meat to give it a little fat. I am not that hungry. I don't save that. I don't save the liver or nothing. Sometimes we'll eat the heart. This one happened to have been shot in the heart. But talking about anatomy, the deer on the inside of his rib cage has a diaphragm, just like we do. You have to cut through that diaphragm. The diaphragm runs from the ring around that to his spine. It won't allow you to get up in his lung and heart cavity unless you cut that diaphragm. So pulling his rib cage away from his intestines, stick my knife in there. Don't cut yourself. And cut that diaphragm. It's just a thin muscle membrane. And once I cut that diaphragm, that blood that's up in there probably gonna come running out. There we go. Then your next cut is gonna have to be all the way up where his throat, his esophagus comes in by his heart and lungs, and you gotta cut through his heart, and you gotta cut through his esophagus to be able to pull it all out. So we reach up in there, past his heart. Usually this takes a little sawing. Once you've done that, I think I got it. Reach up in there and pull.
My knife case right there.
I got it. What's that?
It's under. I was saying, pull my knife case out underneath that heart, then the guts right to the right.
Yeah, well, go ahead and clean his knife case. Anyway, show you a little more anatomy here. Here's his lungs. Been destroyed by a 175 grain 6.8 Western bullet. Here's his heart. I actually missed his heart. Heart sits in a membrane as well. Cut that membrane. Oh, caught a piece of it right there. His aortic artery. That's bad news. If you get shot right there, it's over with. But there's the heart. It's shot up enough, we're probably not gonna eat it. I don't know, we may can save it. We'll save it off this side. But then you pull everything else out. I only cut one side membrane. I gotta cut the membrane on the other side of the diaphragm. So, but I wanted to pull all his guts out first before I got to that part. And cut it free. I was about to say he was shot. Yeah, I shot him. All right, cut it all off, roll it down the hill, feed the coyotes. That's a not so easy, but it's a way to field dress one that you have to save the cape on. We're gonna load him in a truck and take him to the house to process him in the taxidermist, and he'll be on the wall.